Hey boys and girls, today we're going to be reading The Coffee Bean for Kids. It's by John Gordon and Damon West, and it's illustrated by Corey Scott. A simple lesson to create positive change. Let's get into this book. Are you a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean? Gavin used to love going to school, but not this year. He and his family moved to a new city, and he had trouble making friends at his new school. Some of the kids also made fun of him because they said he talked funny. As Gavin walked into his classroom, he saw his teacher, Mrs. Spring, and her smile made him smile. He liked Miss Spring's class and wished everyone at school was as nice as her. We have some nice teachers here at CPS too. When the school day was over, Mrs. Spring asked Gavin to stay after class. Gavin thought he was in trouble. His palms became cold and sweaty, and he could hear his heart beating. Miss Spring said, "Gavin, I can see that you're not happy. In fact, you look sad. You hardly ever smile, and when you do, it's usually only when you say hello to me before class. What's wrong, Gavin?" Isn't Miss Spring pretty? A few tears came trickling down his face as he told Miss Spring about how hard it was to adjust to a new school and make friends. To make matters worse, his parents were fighting a lot. Miss Spring gave him a big smile and said, "I'm going to share with you one of the best lessons you will ever learn. It's also going to help you make new friends and become a leader the rest of your life." Mrs. Spring went to the whiteboard and drew a picture of a pot of boiling water. Then she drew a carrot inside the pot. She asked, "What happens if you put a carrot in a pot of boiling water?" "You get carrot soup," Gavin said. Mrs. Spring smiled. "You're on the right track, Gavin, because a carrot turns soft and mushy in a pot of boiling water after a few minutes." That doesn't sound good. Soft and mushy. Miss Spring then drew another pot of boiling water on the whiteboard. This time she drew a picture of an egg inside the pot. She asked, "What happens if you put an egg inside a pot of boiling water?" "That's easy," Gavin said. "My mom and I did this at Easter. You put the eggs in the pot of boiling water, make the eggs hard, like a hard-boiled egg." "That is absolutely correct, Gavin," Miss Spring said. "The soft inside of the egg turns hard after a few minutes in a pot of boiling water." Gavin looked confused. He asked Miss Spring how a picture of boiling carrots and eggs could be one of the best lessons he's ever learned. "You see, Gavin," she said, "I have one more example for you." Next to the pots with the carrot and the egg, she drew a third pot of boiling water. This time she drew a coffee bean inside the pot. See how little a coffee bean is? She asked Gavin if he knew what happened when you put a coffee bean in boiling water. "I have no idea," Gavin admitted. Miss Spring explained, "The coffee bean, the smallest of these three things, changes the water into coffee. You see, the power to change is inside the coffee bean." Gavin looked confused. I don't understand what carrots, eggs, and coffee beans have to do with me fitting in or finding friends," he said. "Life is often like a pot of very hot water," she said. "It can be a harsh, stressful, and difficult place. You will find yourself in places and situations that test who you truly are and can change, weaken, or harden you if you let it. Like all of the stuff I'm going through now," Gavin said. "Exactly like that, Gavin. You're feeling the pressures of fitting into a new school, the difficulties of finding new friends, and your parents are fighting. You're experiencing fears over things you can't control, and it feels like you're in one big pot of boiling water. But you do have a choice." I like Miss Spring. She's a big help. You can be like the carrot that is weakened and softened by its surroundings. You can be like the egg that is hardened by the mean people of the world. Or you can be like the coffee bean, like this little coffee bean that transforms and changes its environment. When I look at you, Gavin, I don't see a carrot and I don't see an egg. I see a coffee bean who will overcome challenges and change the world. Boys and girls, that's what I see when I see you guys. I don't see those other things. I see coffee beans. That made Gavin smile. Do you really think I can be a coffee bean? He asked. Miss Spring smiled. I know you can be a coffee bean. In fact, I want you to remember this lesson for the rest of your life. Wherever you go and whatever you do, remember, you are a coffee bean and you have the power to transform any environment you're in. No matter how hard things get or how hopeless things appear, do not ever give up. Realize that we don't create our world from the outside in, but we create and transform it from the inside out. If you think you're a carrot, you will believe the forces outside of you are stronger than who you are on the inside, and you will become weaker. If you think you're the egg, you will believe the mean people in this world have the power to harden your heart and cause you to become negative and angry like they are. We don't want to be like they are. If you know you're a coffee bean, you will not allow the outside world to affect you. You will know that the power inside you is greater than the forces outside of you. And with this insight, you will positively transform your world from the inside out. Mrs. Spring then opened a jar on her desk and pulled out a coffee bean. Keep this in your pocket as a reminder of who you are and the power you have. The best is yet to come for you, Gavin. Gavin took the coffee bean, told her thank you, and ran excitedly towards the door. Wait, Gavin, Miss Spring stopped. There's one more thing you need to know. Coffee beans are always smiling, even on the days they don't feel like it. You know why? So they can be happy, Gavin said. That's right, she said. It's also for other people to be happy. When people see you smiling, they'll smile back. Then other people will see the smiles and they'll start smiling too. Positive energy and smiling is contagious. Just like when I greet you all the other kids coming in my door every morning. I'm being a coffee bean, so you will all be positive little coffee beans too. Coffee beans attract other coffee beans. So go now, Gavin, be a coffee bean, she said as Gavin ran out of the door. When Gavin's mother picked him up from school, she noticed how happy and excited he was. She asked him what was different, and he told her all about the coffee bean. From now on, Mom, I'm going to be a coffee bean, he said. The next day at school, Gavin was all smiles. He noticed that it was working. Other kids were smiling back at him. When he got to Miss Spring's class, he high-fived her with a huge grin on his face, and Miss Spring knew he was feeling the awesome power of being a coffee bean. At the end of the week, the snow cone truck came by, the Kona Ice truck. Many of the kids rushed out to buy one. Gavin was standing in line for his snow cone and noticed a kid with special needs standing alone. He had an idea. He went over to Miss Spring and asked if he could use his snow cone money to buy the other kid a snow cone. Mrs. Spring smiled and told him that it would be absolutely okay to do that. That is definitely a coffee bean thing to do, she told him. Gavin was a little nervous about meeting a new kid, but he went over to the boy to introduce himself. Before he could say a word, the boy smiled, stuck his hand out, said, "Hi, my name is Michael. What's your name?" This was easier than he thought. Michael was really friendly. "Gavin," he said as he shook Michael's hand. "I'm Gavin," he replied. "Do you want a snow cone?" Michael kept smiling and nodding his head up and down. "I love snow cones," he said. "Me too. I like snow cones." Gavin and Michael walked over to the snow cone truck to buy Michael a snow cone. Gavin didn't get to eat a snow cone because he only had enough money for one. But the best treat of all was watching how happy Michael was eating his snow cone. Wow, Gavin thought to himself, being a coffee bean makes you feel good. A few days later, Gavin was at lunch, sitting quietly by himself like he always does. And even though no one else sat with him, he was not sad. In fact, he was smiling just like Miss Spring told him to do. As he was opening his lunch kit, he noticed a girl standing next to him. "Hi, I'm Clara. Do you want to sit with my friends and me?" she asked. Gavin couldn't believe it. Clara was one of the smartest and prettiest girls in the 4th grade. They were in Miss Spring's class together, but they had never talked to each other. Now she was asking him to sit with her and her friends. Sure, he said. Clara walked with Gavin to the table where she ate with her friends. She introduced Gavin to each one of them. "Gavin, these are my friends, Peter, Maya, and Priya. Everybody, this is Gavin." Everyone smiled and said hello, and as soon as Gavin sat down, all the kids took turns talking to him. He barely had a chance to eat his lunch because there was so much conversation. Gavin could not believe his luck. Until today, he had no friends. Now he had a table full of new friends. When the table got quiet, he asked Clara, "Why is everybody being so nice to me?" All the kids at the table looked at Clara. She smiled and said, "We noticed you've been smiling a lot. And you've been looking for ways to help others. Like the other day when you bought Michael a snow cone. That was very kind. My mother tells me all the time that being kind is the best thing you can be, and that it's a choice. We are always looking for other kind kids to be our friends." Gavin knew he had made his new friends because of his choice to be a coffee bean. "I'm a coffee bean," he said. "It sounds like you are all coffee beans too." The kids looked confused. So Clara asked Gavin what it meant to be a coffee bean. Gavin told everyone at the table about the lesson Miss Spring taught him, about the carrot, the egg, and the coffee bean, and about how being a coffee bean would attract other coffee beans and create positivity. That gave Clara an idea. "Gavin, this is something we should share with all the kids in school. In fact, we could start a coffee bean club and go find other coffee beans. We could turn this whole school into one big pot of coffee." Now, I know your teachers and your parents would really like that. Dr. J would like that. I like coffee. After school, Clara and Gavin talked to Miss Spring about the Coffee Bean Club. Mrs. Spring thought it was a great idea, and they agreed the club would meet before school started. Clara, Gavin, and their friends began telling everybody about the first Coffee Bean Club meeting. They made flyers. They went around telling kids in every grade about the carrot, the egg, and the coffee bean. At lunch the next day before the first meeting, they even made a coffee bean song. When the morning for the first meeting finally arrived, Clara and her mom, Miss Kendall, arrived at Miss Spring's class extra early with some healthy snacks they had made the night before. When the kids started arriving, Miss Spring was all smiles, as usual. Everyone was surprised at how many kids showed up for their first meeting. Gavin was so excited to see Michael show up too. "Hey Gavin, my mom said I could be a coffee bean too," Michael said proudly. Miss Spring started the meeting by telling everyone, "The main goal of our club is to be kind to everyone and always be positive." Next, Miss Spring told students that they needed to come up with rules for the Coffee Bean Club. Clara raised her hand. "I think the first rule should be help others." That's a good rule. She says that means that you look for carrots and eggs and try to help them become coffee beans. The kids clapped in approval, so Miss Spring wrote it on the board. Number 1 rule, help others. Gavin raised his hand next. "Include everybody," he said. "This means that anyone who wants to be in the club can join. It also means that when someone wants to join and play a game or sit at your lunch table, then they can do that. More coffee beans make our pot of coffee stronger." And the kids clapped again in approval. They added a second rule to the board. Rule number 2, include everybody. Maya was called on next. The third rule should be to smile, because smiles are like boomerangs. When you smile, it always comes back to you. You smile at somebody and they smile back. "Smiles make me happy," said Michael as Miss Spring wrote on the board. Rule number 3, smile. After the 3 rules of the Coffee Bean Club were on the board, Clara raised her hand. "Miss Spring, we made a song for the club. Can we sing it?" she asked. "Of course you can," she said. "How exciting." Clara, Gavin, Peter, Maya, Priya, and Michael all went to the front of the room and began to sing. and hear the words to the song. I'm a coffee bean, you'll see what I mean. Carrots are good for your sight, but get soft when things don't go right. Eggs are a great source of protein. Boiled in water, they get hardened and mean. I won't be a carrot or an egg. I'll just be a coffee bean instead. I may be the smallest of the three, but put me in water and you'll see that I'm a coffee bean. The room erupted with cheers and clapping. Then the kids started chanting, coffee beans, coffee beans, coffee beans. The Coffee Bean Club made it their mission to find coffee beans all over the school. They wrote positive notes to students who seemed to be having a tough time, and they engaged in random acts of kindness. Over the course of the rest of the school year, it was clear to all the people that the Coffee Bean Club positively changed the school. In fact, the club became so big that they had to hold their monthly meetings in the gymnasium. That's like our auditorium. That would be cool if we had so many people we had to meet somewhere else. Everyone wanted to be in the Coffee Bean Club. Everyone wanted to be a coffee bean. It was no longer cool to be negative or mean. Instead, it became cool to be a coffee bean and help others. The end. Now, boys and girls, we've got a Coffee Bean Club here, and it's part of our positive office referrals. So if your teacher nominates you to get to come to the office for a positive office referral, then you can join our Coffee Bean Club, and your face will go up on the bulletin board out in the hall outside the office. Okay, I hope you liked this story as much as I did. Y'all have a great day.